J.P. Morgan, the man who owned America. Wealth, authority, and sway, J.P. Morgan possessed them all. He was the proprietor of the first billion-dollar corporation and reigned over the most lucrative sectors in the nation. At times, the fate of the United States economy hung precariously on J.P. Morgan's actions. With a mere word or a stroke of his pen, he could rescue a company from collapse or consign it to bankruptcy. Morgan was a polarizing figure, admired by some and loathed by others. His life story unfolds here. Born in 1837 into privilege in Connecticut, John Pierpont Morgan was destined for financial success from the outset. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, an affluent banker, ensured John received the finest education money could buy, with hopes of grooming him to follow in his financial footsteps. However, despite his privileged upbringing, John's childhood was marked by adversity. He battled chronic illnesses, suffering from severe coughing fits, migraines, seizures, and ailments like scarlet fever. These health issues often kept him indoors, where he could be found studying and poring over financial statements rather than playing outdoors with his peers. At one point, John's health deteriorated to the extent that his father sent him to live alone on the Azores Islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, believing the climate and salty air would aid his recovery. John spent nearly a year in isolation without family, and when he regained his health, he resumed his education. By 1857, he had studied in Boston, Switzerland, and Germany and was ready to enter the workforce at the age of 19. At that time, John's father was a junior partner at a London-based merchant banking firm called George Peabody and Company. Thanks to his father's connections, John secured a position on Wall Street with the banking firm responsible for managing Peabody's interests in America. Part of John's job involved sending reports to his father's firm detailing the financial and political developments in the emerging American market. From an early age, John's father had concerns about his son's impulsive and hot-tempered nature, believing he needed to learn restraint and responsibility. An example of John's impulsiveness occurred in 1859 when, during a trip to New Orleans, he made a seemingly reckless move by using company funds to purchase an entire shipment of Brazilian coffee that had arrived without a buyer. Although John sold the coffee and turned a profit, this kind of risk-taking did not sit well with the senior members of the banking house, including his own father. In 1861, at the age of 24, John decided to leave the security of an established firm to venture out on his own. He founded his own company, which continued to act as an agent for his father's bank in England. That same year, John married his first love, a delicate young woman named Amelia Sturgis. For a brief period, John experienced happiness. Tragically, Amelia soon fell seriously ill with tuberculosis. After their wedding, John took her on an extended honeymoon in the Mediterranean, hoping the change in climate might restore her health, much like his father had tried for him in his youth. Sadly, it was in vain, and Amelia passed away just 4 months after their wedding, leaving John a widower at 24. He never truly recovered from this heartbreaking loss and immersed himself even more deeply in his work. While John was facing personal crises, the United States was in turmoil. The American Civil War had erupted, and the 1863 Conscription Act should have required John to enlist. However, he paid $300 to be exempted and have a substitute take his place. Although John didn't serve in the military, he profited substantially from the war. One notable instance was when he financed the purchase of 5,000 surplus Hall carbine rifles from the government for $3.50 each. The consortium that bought these rifles made minor adjustments and quickly sold them back to the government for $22 each, resulting in a significant profit. Despite being lucrative, this war profiteering drew public and governmental ire. John faced even larger controversies shortly thereafter. In 1871, he seized an opportunity to partner with another leading financier, Anthony Drexel, and together, they founded the Drexel, Morgan & Co. private merchant banking house. This firm, later renamed J.P. Morgan & Co., would be John's lifelong project, setting the stage for the modern banking giant, J.P. Morgan Chase. In the early stages of his career, John primarily facilitated deals by connecting wealthy investors and visionaries, taking a cut of the profits. As his fortune and reputation grew, he began financing many projects on his own. John's first major investment focus was the American railroad system. While other industries were dominated by single magnates, like Carnegie in steel and Rockefeller in oil, the railroads faced intense competition. John saw an opportunity in consolidation rather than competition. He believed that by merging railroads, they could benefit from economies of scale, allowing them to set prices and dominate the market. John invested heavily in consolidating underfinanced railroad companies, streamlining their operations, and merging them into dominant conglomerates, a strategy that would come to be known as amalgamation. John distinguished himself from his contemporaries by taking an active role in corporate management. He craved control and used his influence on boards of directors to shape companies according to his vision. He often reshuffled leadership within the railway companies, creating monopolies with himself at the helm. When railroads sought his assistance, he demanded full control in return. This approach not only increased John's power but also stabilized the industry, attracting more investments from Europe and further enriching him. John's reputation as an industry titan was matched by his imposing appearance. He suffered from rosacea, which made his nose appear red and disfigured, and rhinophima, enlarging and pimpling his nose. Despite being self-conscious about his appearance and disliking photography, John remained an intimidating presence due to his towering height, aggressive demeanor, and distinctive features. In 1901, John faced a significant challenge from President Theodore Roosevelt. John had merged the Northern Pacific Railroad with two other railways to create the massive Northern Securities Corporation. While he had enjoyed close ties with President William McKinley, McKinley's assassination brought Roosevelt into power, and he took issue with John's monopolistic practices. Roosevelt ordered the Justice Department to file a lawsuit against the company, ultimately leading to its breakup. Despite this setback, John's ambition soared. He struck a historic deal with Andrew Carnegie, purchasing Carnegie Steel for $480 million, the largest business deal in history at the time. He then merged Carnegie Steel with other companies to form U.S. Steel, the world's first billion-dollar corporation, with a market capitalization of $1.4 billion. John's control extended to approximately two-thirds of American steel production, solidifying his dominance in two major industries, railroads and steel. John didn't stop there. He financed Thomas Edison's early experiments with electricity and played a crucial role in merging Edison Electric with its competitors to create General Electric. He also contributed to the formation of what would become AT&T. John's ability to merge companies and transform them into colossal entities was unparalleled. In 1893, the United States plunged into a devastating depression, resulting in plummeting stock prices, business closures, bank failures, and soaring unemployment rates. The crisis led to a depletion of the U.S. gold reserves as foreign investors exchanged American bonds for gold, causing a sharp decline in the value of the dollar. President Grover Cleveland recognized the dire situation and sought John's assistance. John proposed a daring plan to form a private syndicate of prominent bankers, both American and foreign, to bolster the nation's gold reserves. This syndicate would purchase $65 million worth of 30-year gold bonds using 3.5 million ounces of gold. With President Cleveland's approval, the deal was swiftly executed, stabilizing the financial markets and restoring confidence in the economy. While John was celebrated as a hero for rescuing the economy, concerns arose about the extent of one individual's influence on the entire U.S. economy. His motives were questioned, with some wondering if his actions were truly patriotic or simply driven by personal gain. John's close ties with the government continued, with his financial contributions playing a role in elections. However, increasing scrutiny led to the establishment of the Federal Reserve to prevent future economic crises reliant on the actions of a few ultra-wealthy individuals. In 1907, another financial crisis gripped the country, leading to bank runs and widespread panic. President Theodore Roosevelt and John agreed to cooperate to avert a depression. John's strategy involved investing in struggling banks to prevent bankruptcy. His intervention, along with government support, stabilized the banking system and prevented a catastrophe. The era of unchecked business magnates was drawing to a close, as public sentiment turned against the concentration of power in the hands of a few. John faced increased scrutiny, and the Pujo Committee hearings shed light on the extent of Wall Street's influence. Mental health issues and negative media portrayal took a toll on John's well-being. John testified before the Pujo Committee, which laid the groundwork for the creation of the Federal Reserve. He didn't live to see the full impact of this investigation, as he passed away in Rome on March 31, 1913, at the age of 75. His son continued his legacy, and J.P. Morgan and Company evolved into the modern banking giant J.P. Morgan Chase, which remains a powerful force in the financial world. Today, J.P. Morgan Chase is the world's largest bank by market capitalization, with an estimated $3 trillion in assets, a testament to John Pierpont Morgan's enduring influence on the financial sector. While opinions on his legacy vary, there is no denying the lasting impact of his financial prowess and the complex role he played in shaping the American economy.